Orlando, can you hear me okay? Orlando? You can hear my microphone. Yes, dear, I remember. Affectionate butterfly. Can you hear me okay? You can hear this microphone. Okay, good, good, good. Awesome. Oh, wait, I'll turn the microphone all the way up. How's that? Is that better? Cool, cool. Magaling, galing. So, how is Orlando? ¿Cómo está? How are you, Miss Girl in the Mirror? Affectionate butterfly. Oh, the ambulance. I actually used that background in one of my videos. So I was looking for another background and I found that in my pictures, so I downloaded it. That was just a random ambulance photo on Google that I found. You know, in all my years of being a paramedic, I never, no, I can't say I never. In Oregon, we did have these big box ambulances. But other than that, I was in a van or, yeah, mostly a van. It was like a converted van. Louisiana was a van. California was a van. And then Oregon was a box ambulance. Much better if I have a green screen. Why, it doesn't flicker as much? Is that what you? That's a virtual green screen, but at least that's what they call it. Teacher Chrissy, how are you, dear? saying hello to Karen also. There's another live streamer. Now, I have a question about green screen. If I use the green screen that is provided, this one, yeah, how do I use that? This green screen. Now, what is that green screen used for? How do you incorporate that green screen? Darling Bustamante, ¿cómo está? Yeah, I'm curious. How do you use that green screen? Do you lay something on top of that green screen, or I'm not quite sure the sequence of events. Bien, bien. Darling, that's right. You are Espanol. Where are you? In Texas? Is that right? Now, there's a physical green screen, that you can mount behind you, put up like a curtain, and then you can lay pictures on top of that. I think that's what Orlando is referring to. Oh, in Chicago. What is your heritage background, darling? Mom and dad are both Hispanic or? Ah. Do you know what part of Mexico they're from? Did I ask you this question before? Yeah, Orlando. I'm reading your any pictures you want. You can create your own, like I said, girl, you can create your own green screen. It's got to be a particular green, but behind me. But this is considered a virtual green screen, so. Guerrero. Yeah. Yeah, I think so, now that you say that. The outskirts of Acapulco. And I probably mentioned that I went to Acapulco and picked up some American citizens that were injured down in Acapulco, and we flew them back to the United States. Oaxaca, that's right. Yeah, where the pyramids are. Oaxaca. Have you been home to your roots? To Guerrero? It is cold here in the basement. Why I've got my jacket on and my warm booties and my wife has a small space heater, a little box heater right over here on the chair, but I don't have it on. I had it on earlier and it was too warm. Right. OBS is another platform. Cool. Yeah, I haven't been back for, gosh, how long? Almost 40 years. 1988, I think. When did I go to? Yeah, 88. What do you mean I look like I'm ready to take off on an airplane? You mean with my headset and my microphone? Here. Wait, you'll like this one. Hold on a second. Wait, I've done this before. Let me do it again. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of what airlines are we flying on today? Hi, Belinda. Melvin. Give me an airline. No, I'm not going to redirect. I was going to read something for you. What airlines? Name an airlines, guys. How about Philippine Airlines, since we're Darling Airlines? Okay. Or let's see, it is evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Darling Airlines, it is my pleasure to welcome you aboard Flight 842 with service to Oaxaca and continuing service to Acapulco, Mexico. Federal regulations require that carry-on items are stowed prior to closing the aircraft door. Your items may be placed in an overhead compartment. Here, hold on a second. Let's bring it over here. In an overhead compartment, and let us know if we may assist you. In order to expedite the boarding process, please be seated as quickly as possible after stowing your carry-on items. Take a moment to review the safety instructions card in your seat pocket. Passengers seated in the rows are also the exit rows are also asked to review the exit row seating requirements. If you are seated in an exit row, you may be required to assist the crew in an evacuation. If you are unable or unwilling to perform the functions described on the card, just be asked to be reseated. Thank you. Let's see, is there continuing? Oh yeah, they do seatbelt demonstrations. Ladies and gentlemen, the local time is 1:48 a.m. For your safety and the safety of those around you, please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened and keep the aisles clear until we are parked at the gate. The captain will then turn off the fasten seatbelt sign, indicating it is safe to stand. Please use caution when opening the overhead compartments and removing your items, since articles may have shifted during flight. Thank you again for flying Darling Airlines. There you go. That's a first. Darling Airlines? Oh my gulai. Zanita. Who's this? I'm sorry. Zaneda. Hi, Zaneda. ¿Cómo está? Belinda, how is, not Zaire, I almost said Zaire, Africa. How is Kenya? Gosh, I'm having problems swallowing. Okay, medical terminology time. What is difficulty swallowing? I already know the answer, but that's for you guys. You can Google it. See who can come up with the answer first. Difficulty swallowing. Fly us now. Fly me to the moon. Why are we, what? Why not? We are all a darling. Did anybody get it? What is difficulty swallowing? What is the medical terminology? The medical term for difficulty swallowing? Very good. Actually, no, that's not correct. That's difficulty speaking. Swallowing is you got one letter wrong. Look again. Pay attention to detail. Dysphagia is what people usually with strokes or a bleed in the brain experience. Although all the dys's they can experience, but difficulty swallowing is one letter different. Did you figure it out? Still waiting. Aha, there you go. Dysphagia with a G. Yeah, dysphagia is difficulty speaking with a S. Just think of S for speaking. Dysphagia with a G is the swallowing. Yeah, there's a bunch of mnemonics or abbreviations that we use to help memorize, certain symptoms, signs and symptoms. That is correct. Dysphagia. You've heard of dyslexia, dysphagia, dystonia. There's a lot of dys's. Okay, there's another. In diabetes, somebody with diabetes. Let's see if I can remember the symptoms. Signs is what you see. Symptoms are what you experience. The symptoms of somebody with diabetes. Um, there's a bunch of them. What is difficulty urinating? Although that has nothing to do with diabetes, but actually there is a symptom of diabetes that they experience, and it is excessive urination. What is that? How did I get on urination? Oh my gosh. Oh, you're doing medical coding. Ah. What's it say? Maybe when we are medical coding, we would be more concerned of the correct spelling. No, I hope you're concerned with the correct spelling, whether you're looking up medical codes or not, because you wouldn't be saying the right thing if you. But I know what you mean. Yeah. Or like if you're taking a test and you get your spelling wrong, you're going to get the wrong answer. Or if you're trying to describe to somebody what you're talking about. Actually, it's said differently as well. Dysphagia and dysphagia. Two different pronunciations, two different spellings. Yeah. Oh, the other are polys. Polyuria, um, polyuria, polyphagia. That's excessive drinking. Is that right? Polyphagia with a G. That's thirsty, being excessive thirst. Polyphagia. And polyuria is excessive urination. What's the other for diabetes? Polyuria, polyphagia. Kim, you're awake? Oh my God. Oh, it's in the morning. That's right. You just woke up, or an hour or two ago. Hi, Lynn. Let me think of all of them. Polyuria, polydipsia. Wait. That's thirst. Sorry. Hunger. Excessive hunger is phagia. Polyphagia, polydipsia is excessive thirst. See, I've got to recall how long ago? 20 years ago. You're always working, Lynn. You're always busy. Okay, Lynn, thanks. Right, yeah. And Lynn, though, is in um, She's in Beirut. She's a overseas foreign worker over in Beirut, Lebanon, and it's 8 hours difference. So it's or 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 o'clock in the morning over there, or eight, one of the two. Yep, she's just waking up and starting her morning breakfast, etc., etc. Yeah, that's the same time it is here, although 1:59 umaga in the morning. Okay, who's tired of that song playing in the background? Morning in Kenya. What time is it there, Belinda? Is it also about the same time as Lebanon? 8 o'clock? Um, no, I haven't. I don't live stream very much, darling. Um, just random, like tonight. Ouch. Gosh, I've got a sore on my nose and I just touched it. I'm gonna make myself bleed. No, I'm on other people's live streams more than I am. Is that sleep music? It's what, 1 o'clock in the morning there in Chicago? Or is it 12? Is it midnight? I think it's 1 hour difference, no? You know, I used to read to my my wife before she was my wife. I used to, when we would talk on the phone. What did you say? Like that, cut your finger, Doc. I mean your nails. No, I don't need to cut my nails. They're cut. They're good to go. Yeah, I was in California and she was in New Jersey. No, I'm in New Jersey. I just answered that. My daughter's in Florida. I just came back from Florida 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago, or a week and a half ago. Let's see, it's Sunday now. It's Monday, so 2 weeks ago. I drove down to Florida. My goodness, what a marathon drive that was. 2 days. Even in 2 days, I consider that just way too much. 8 hours a day. No. 8+ hours a day. Might as well make it 9 hours a day, including stops and sleep. It was longer than 9 hour days because I took naps and slept on roadsides and truck stops and etc. Um, Zenata, it's one of the defaulted StreamYard music. What's the name of it? It's called Over the Horizon. It comes with the live stream, or the streaming platform, I should say. I believe. No, I may have downloaded this. Don't quote me on that. I forgot. See, now you're going to make me yawn. Yeah, what was I saying? Oh, I was saying, where I drove to. So I spent the whole week down there and fished in my kayak. I pulled my trailer and my kayak on top of it. And yeah, it was nice. What's that? You mean you didn't take a holiday stop of 2 days before continuing to drive down to Florida? What do you mean you didn't take a holiday stop? You mean as one of my stops, take a 2-day rest, you mean, before I arrived? I try, on the way back, let's see, what did I do on the way down? Did I do any fishing on the way down? No, I didn't. My plan, I had to get there. I was on a schedule. My daughter told me already, I'm reading your post. Good night, dear darling, my night owl friend. The EMT is not your RV. Wait, you lost me here. Oh, you mean the ambulance is not my RV? Is that what you mean? Anyways, I had basically an appointment. My daughter told me that her son, my grandson, had a baseball game on Sunday morning. He had a double header. He almost made me look behind me. I was like, where behind me? Oh, you mean that? Gosh, how many times have I slept in my ambulance? My partner up front, working the night shift. You're going to make me change subjects here. I'll get back to Florida here in a second. Working in an ambulance on the night shift, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Even though we were night shift, we're still human beings, and especially after dinner or after midnight, or any time when we weren't busy in the middle of the night or the middle of the morning, we didn't typically have a quarters, as they called it, a place to go to, like an apartment, to rest or to kick back or to sleep. Our ambulance was our quarters, and we moved throughout the night depending on where the computer model placed us, depending on business. So if one ambulance would go on a call and that part of the city was uncovered, they would rotate, the nearest ambulance to that spot. It was a computer-generated program that did all the moving of the ambulances throughout the city to provide the best response times to the greater part of the city. Dorothy the Explorer. Thank you, dear. Hang around, Dorothy. Chat with the rest of them. So, so when we weren't busy, I would, somebody had to monitor the radio at all times, and we both had portable radios as well as the radio up front in the cab back there. So it was imperative that somebody monitoring the radio at all times for obvious reasons. And so we would keep one person awake to monitor the radio while the other person rotated into the back, and we would sleep we did sleep on the gurney and the bench seat. And sometimes if we were confident enough that somebody could wake up with our portable radios at our ear, we both would go in the back and go hide out somewhere behind some business or store. But the best case scenario is one guy awake up front, the other guy could kick back in the back and get some sleep. And then we would rotate, we'd have posts. So we would do, I'd do an hour, depending on if we got a call. And then the other guy would wake him up and we'd switch. So anyways, back to Florida. He had a baseball game on Sunday morning. So I needed to get there by Saturday night, and I left on Friday. So I drove all day Friday, spent the night at a truck stop with all the truckers, backed my trailer into a trucker spot, and then I slept up in the front cab, which was miserable. I could have slept in the back. I have an SUV, but it was full of fishing gear and my luggage, and I didn't want to bother rearranging. Well, on the way back, I forced myself, number one, to get a hotel one night so I could shower, and the other time I slept in the back. I cleared off one side of the back with the seats down, and I put all the junk up front in the cab so I could lay down in the back. And then there was one time I actually went behind a dollar store and told the owner and the manager, hey, I'm going to be back behind your building sleeping if you want to know what that SUV is doing back there with a trailer and a boat. And they're like, oh, no problem, go ahead. So I actually pulled it. They had some grass, really long, soft grass planted in the back. And I put out my sleeping pad and my sleeping bag, and I laid down with my makeshift pillow and put my sleeping bag over me, and I crashed out for an hour and a half. I think it was almost close to 2 hours. And then I got up and I continued. Gosh, I think I'm going to be lazy this year. I'm already too late for planting. I mean, I could do it, but I'm not too motivated this year. We had a fun time last year. We tried to produce cantaloupe. That was partially successful. Don't know what killed the plants out front. We had them in pots and they went berserk and they looked wonderful. But all of a sudden they died out. We're not sure what happened. And then we planted Chinese eggplant, or talong in the Philippines. And we grew tomatoes and hot chili peppers, and I think that's it. Oh, you got to pick the weeds by hand, dear girl. Or like I do, I go to or order on Amazon the weed and feed, the spray on the end of your hose, and spray the weeds, and at the same time it sprays fertilizer and helps the grass grow, but at the same time kills the weeds. And I'll do that once or twice. Matter of fact, I need to do it. It just helps keep the weeds under control. Otherwise, I pick the weeds by hand, the dandelions in particular. I'm pretty diligent about dandelions. Those things can be they're a super aggressive weed, and they get roots that are up to 12 inches long down into the soil. So I picked those by hand. I think my dad actually taught us boys when we were young how to pick dandelions out of the yard. So I still do it to this day in my own yard. Yeah. And I actually have done it once. I rented what they call a slit seeder, SLIT. It's a machine that actually lays grass seed and turns the soil. It makes grooves in the soil as it seeds, as it distributes grass seed. It's like a roller about, I don't know, 3 feet wide, and it turns. It automatically pulls itself through the soil, and lays down seed as you walk. And I rented that and bought enough seed for over 15,000 square feet, and did my whole. I got about a half an acre of grass around the house. And I need to do that again because the soil here is horrible. It's river bottom, sand, and river rock. And it's a forest. It's like an old riverbed that has covered the land at one point, and now pines and oaks grow, and the soil underneath is just nothing but sand and river rock, those white, yellow, round, smooth river rock. So you have to put your own soil down for everything. Growing, grass, everything. What'd you plant? You planted tomatoes? Well, gosh, in the Philippines, growing is year round. Maybe it's the insect. Maybe they didn't get pollinated because of the weather. I don't know about the Philippines. Oh, really? Your dad taught you to pick weeds too? Yeah, Rochester, New York. Oh my gosh. I know exactly where I was when my dad was teaching my brother and I. That's something I didn't put my kids through, and I don't regret it. They can learn on their own, when they get older, if they ever have to. But I didn't put my kids through that. Taught them, I've taught them other stuff, but actually, I stand corrected. I have shown, I think, my son, my youngest, how to pull dandelions and get the whole root. Yep, yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Good old homeowners association. My daughter belongs to a kind of a well-to-do neighborhood in Florida, and yeah, their homeowners association limits them to certain things like parking and no boats or trailers next to the homes or in the driveways. And you have to park. I had to park my car. I could park on the front, by the front curb, but the trailer with my boat on it, she says, yeah, Dad, you can't keep your trailer and your boat, but there's an area behind the 7-Eleven about a half a mile from here. And I went, what? I gotta drive to go park my trailer and boat and then leave it there? She's like, yeah, there's other boats and trailers. People, they use that curb to park their trailers and boats. And I thought, well, what do I do? Got to walk to your house? And she's like, no, just leave the trailer there and then drive your SUV to the house. So anyways, it was, speaking of homeowners association, I know. I said, don't some of your homes have like a cement drive built next to the house? We had one in San Diego. I never used it. I never had a trailer or a boat, but they cemented one side of the house to the very back, and you could open the gate and pull your vehicle or your trailer back there and park it on the side. She's like, no, none of our homes have that. They don't allow that. I was like, oh, bummer. Oh, you also? Gosh, even in the Philippines. I didn't know that, girl. Affectionate butterfly. Tony Martinis. No playing up. What does that mean? Yeah. I mean, I understand homeowners association. It kind of keeps the, what do you call it, in check. The maintenance, the cleanliness, sometimes homes can get out of control. They people turn their homes into junkyards or storage. Keep their yards, or use their yards for other than looking nice. So, yeah, the neighborhood looking good. Yep, I grew up. I think we all know, there's those that keep their yards and those that don't. And I guess homeowners associations will kind of keep that under control. What's new, Tony? Oh, you know what? Let's see here. I was going to do something earlier and I forgot. My dog has dug my front yard up. Have to fix it tomorrow. What kind of dog is digging your yard up? Is he a puppy or? Okay, I was going to do this. There we go. Yeah, I was going to say, well, I was thinking when you said the dog's digging up stuff, he must be a puppy still or younger. And he's a mastiff. Holy moly. What's he digging up? What's he looking for? A rabbit or something? 110 pounds and crazy. Unbelievable. Hey, Tony, speaking of, just let me turn this music down a bit. Speaking of mastiffs, maybe I had this conversation with you before. Excuse me a second. Did we? Did I talk about my experience with that, what I thought was a bear in the distance? But I was in Nepal. I was in Kathmandu, Nepal, and hiking with a Nepali kid, a 19-year-old who was my guide. And excuse me a second here. I always lose this. Is that it? Nope, that's not it. There we go. And he was in front of me. He was ahead of me, and I was lagging behind taking pictures with my dad's camera at the time. And excuse me a sec. I can multitask here, I think. Yeah, all of a sudden I heard this, echo dog bark. I mean, I was in a valley, this terraced hills. You've seen the pictures like on National Geographic, of the terraced hills. And I was hiking along those terraces, and the river bottom was down below, off to my left side. And then the other side of the hill, the other side of the mountain, was over on my left side. Another terraced hillside. It's somebody's property, and I heard this woof, woof, woof. I mean, like echoing, and I was trying to eyeball where is that coming from, and I looked over in the distance. I mean, in the far distance, and this creature was woof, 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 and he was tied up by a rope. I could barely see it, but I could see he was tied up with a rope to a tree. And he could see me across, and he was barking at me, and it was a huge mastiff. I was like, oh my God, if that thing ever came loose, I'd be running for my life. Yeah, it was like a Tibetan mastiff. It was humongous. It looked like a bear, just this big old animal of hair. Oh, is that what he's doing? He's telling you his owners are there. Ah, okay, gotcha. That's a good point, Tony. I was talking you before you came in. I was talking about my trip down to Florida like 2 weeks ago to see my daughter, and right as I was leaving, the initial drive out of New Jersey into Maryland, well, Delaware, Maryland, before the bridge, forget which one. There's a bunch of farmlands out in an area called Cowtown, and of course, being a fisherman, and that was one of my reasons for going down there, was to do some fishing as well as see my grandkids and my daughter and her family. I towed my trailer and my kayak. Well, on the way down, I know of this one watering hole, fishing hole, and it's on private property, some guy's farm, but it's off right on the edge of the road, and I pull out there and break out my poles before I left New Jersey, and just wanted to see if I could, uh, get some activity out of this. I think it's an irrigation. It's a natural, but they use it for irrigation as well. And sure enough, shortly after I walked down to the edge of the pond, this dog just lit up, and he was in the distance up at a house. And shortly thereafter, within 5 minutes of that dog barking, out came the owner, and he knew exactly where I was. If I'm sure he could probably see me, but and he pulled down the road and he kind of hung out and observed me for a little bit, and I pretended like I didn't see him, and then eventually he got out and he was real nice about it, but he's like, yeah, sorry, can't have you fishing here for insurance reasons, yada yada yada. And so he chased me out, and that was the end of that. But that was what the dog did. He let the owner know that there's somebody down there. Yeah. Here, and now you got me. Now you got me started, darling. I'm reading your comment here. I'm sorry, I got a pop-up going here as well. So, the heck. Um, but I have a horror story regarding your comment here. I grew up with dogs and loved the heck out of them, and unfortunately, I didn't get any for my kids for whatever reason. Actually, I didn't ever had the space, at least in my own thinking. I didn't have enough space that I wanted, for a dog. Well, now I have. Actually, this property has enough space for an animal, but I still didn't get one. But anyways, on that note, so I've seen my share of dog behavior, whether it's the owner's doing or whatever. My my philosophy with dogs is, they're animals and they're not human beings, and so treat them as such and respect them and be careful, no matter how nice they are. And I say that even more so now because of this job that I worked in, for nearly 20 years. And one call in particular stands out, and I'll tell you about it. We got a response to not a police department, a fire department. Usually it's a residence, but the response was to a fire department. So that was interesting. I wonder what they got there. Usually we're responding with fire and police, at a person's residence or a location. And fire department's already there, police are already there, and we arrive, or vice, whatever. All of the above. But we're going to a fire department. So we're always we always look at our pager or our screen, and reading what the call is, and it doesn't go into detail a lot of the times. It'll just kind of give you the general, idea as to what you're responding to, such as shortness of breath or abdominal pain or motor vehicle accident, or whatever. And I don't remember what the call was at the fire department, but so we get to fire department. Whoa, my battery just died. Stand by. I think that's what just happened. I think you can still hear me, right? Yeah. That's the only drawback with this camera is I still haven't figured out how to give it external power. The cords that are associated with this camera don't provide it power. Even when plugged into a USB port. It doesn't provide power to the camera. Okay, there we go. I think I'm set. There we go. I got a battery back. So, um, so we get there. Oh, sorry, I'm a little out of focus there. Aha, there we go. And it was like, holy crap. There's a foyer into the front door of the fire department, you know, for visitors, and then a desk, and it was a orange or red tile, you know, the large tile, inlaid tile on the floor, and it was like somebody drug in bled out an animal into the front door, and sitting there on the floor of the fire department was a firefighter with a child, and she must have been about 2. It was a girl, and she was just whimpering and crying, and Dad was, you know, deer in the headlight look up against the wall while the firefighters were down on the floor with this poor girl. And, you know, shortly thereafter, we learned that a dog had gotten a hold of her. And poor thing, she was, gosh, she was maimed. Her scalp was lacerated on one side, like from the very front all the way to the back, and it was like a lid. The whole side of the scalp with the hair was flopped over, and her face was torn, like from her nose up to her eye, and her lip from her lip was lacerated through and through, and her mouth was kind of just hanging. And I was like, holy crap. And so, you know, he had already bandaged her, and it was a bloody mess. It was clogged. I mean, clotted blood all over on the tile. It was a slippery mess. And, you know, we're just packaging her up and getting her ready to transport ASAP to the nearest, you know, trauma center for pediatrics. And we come to find out that, yeah, the family dog who, and I always quote, who said something very similar to your post, he's really good with babies and with kids, is exactly what they said. But apparently the dog was feeding inside the house, inside his bowl, you know, how the water and food side by side, and the toddler wasn't being watched, which apparently they didn't need to be, according to the, you know, the statement, because he's really good with babies and kids. And the little one must have put her hand or her head in the bowl or nearby, and the dog just went wah and grabbed a hold of him and ripped her and threw her. And, you know, just based on that, I don't care how good your dog is, even though I've seen dogs that are just absolutely beautiful with children. They're dogs, and they got big teeth. And, you know, God forbid your little one, you know, ends up in that fire department, you know, and I end up running on them. It's just not worth it, you know. So that being said, you know, you can point the finger and blame and da 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 da, but the bottom line, that's too late. You know, you know, it doesn't do any good pointing the finger or blaming, you know, people now that your child is disfigured. And yeah, it was like, wow. Yeah, Matter of fact, I was and as critical as I am, I'm overcritical. Ask my wife. But I was watching a lady today. Was it today or yesterday? She was walking her dog. I was driving. I was actually fishing this morning. I went out before sunset and went fishing. And on my way out, there was a lady walking her dog, or maybe it wasn't because it was dark when I left. Maybe it was yesterday. Anyways, she was walking her dog, and she was walking the dog with like a 10-foot leash, and the dog was just manhandling her, and she was doing her best to keep her balance and to stay on her feet. And I held my tongue so much. I just wanted to slow down and roll my window down and say, keep them on a short leash. Don't don't let the dog do that, because I remember, can you imagine a mastiff, on a 10-foot leash? Holy Lord. There was a there was a dog I have a trail that goes from my house to the Starbucks. It's a 1 mile walk. I measured it from stoplight to stoplight. It's a mile. But through the woods, there's a beautiful trail, just flat, all the way down to the Starbucks. And people walk that trail, use it regularly. And there was a lady walking a large dog, and she had that thing on a 20-foot leash or so. And she would literally, and the dog was, we won't go into detail, it would probably have torn my leg off had she let it. But she would see me from a distance coming, and she would go into the woods and wrap her leash. She would walk around a tree like 3 times to, number one, shorten the leash, and number two, so that she could handle the dog, so that when I came by, it didn't tear my leg off. And I think I told her, it's like, just a suggestion, you might just try this, but keep the dog on a short leash. Don't let him out like that. Oh my gosh, especially the size of that dog. Anyways, yeah, so got me started on dogs. Yeah, well, yeah, it's the way they're brought up, you know. Yeah, I had there's a handicapped kid. I'm gonna say he was handicapped. I don't know what his disability was, but um, this black kid would walk his dog, and he had a beautiful shepherd, big, big German shepherd. And that thing, speaking of, gosh, when he was alone with it, I would watch it from a distance, the dog, and he'd keep him on a short leash. He was like doing all the right things, walking him, keeping him right there at his side. It seemed like he had him under control. But as soon as a car or a person would walk by, the thing would just go ballistic. I mean, teeth and all. He would snap at my vehicle as I drove by it, and he'd yank it real hard and get it back under control. But I thought, what the world? And I don't see him. I see him now with a different dog, and it's a completely different, younger puppy or thereabouts, younger dog. And I don't know what happened to the German Shepherd. It probably died. It was older, or maybe he got rid of it or something. But yeah, they're beautiful. I got to admit, these huge dogs like that are just like wonders. You're like, whoa, they're awesome looking. I love it. I'd love to have one, and let him work for me. Oh my gosh, I would put him to work. Heck yeah, carry my stuff, plow my garden. He could plow your garden for you. to a point, right? A small one. Put them on a sled. Oh my gosh, I'd love to. I'd love to have a dog like that. Yeah, I grew up with dogs. Loved the heck out of them. We had mostly collies and shepherds. Dad always had, and then we had a smaller. It was kind of a mixed up. Uh, my sister brought him home, found him in a shopping cart or something, but it turned out to be a terrier collie mix, a border collie terrier mix, short hair. It's super dog. Could jump like 7, 8 feet high, and um, until he got older and his back hips, dysplasia took over, and he became hard of hearing and eventually got hit by a vehicle or something. Yeah, and then when I became an adult and had kids, I just decided, I never had the room for a dog that I wanted. And now I have, like I said, now I have room, and my son has expressed, he's 18 now, but um, the the desire to have a dog, and my wife was talking about it for a little bit, for a couple years, but I never pulled the trigger and did it. Yeah. I buried my share of poop. And sprayed the yard with my garden hose, dissolving it into the grass. Yeah, I had three brothers and sisters. Yeah, four of us. Wow. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, if you got the space. Awesome. Well, let's see here. Oh, yeah, I had a pop out. There it is. Maybe I just do it this way. Yeah. Well, let's see. It's already 2:48. Um, yeah, I've only been on an hour and 15 minutes. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely have some of the greatest memories with dogs. I did. I admit, man, all my years with dogs and being around them and training them and talking to them, and them, being your best friend, and they communicate with you. It's awesome. Whatever happened to Tony? Tony, where'd you go? What was that? I missed this one, Tony. He says, "Oh, where you're talking about him barking and telling the owner that you're there." And he said another comment here. He says, he's alerting, if he wanted to eat you, he would be quiet about it. Because he doesn't want his owner to know. Oh, I didn't know that. You have a Malinois? That's a shepherd. And a dachshund. Oh, wow. Hey, I got a great, speaking of, Malinois. I had a cool experience with a Malinois. What country are they from? A what are they? What country are the Malinois? Um, gosh, I'm saying it in Belgium. Belgium. Belgium Malinois. Um, when in listen to this story, affectionate butterfly. When I was in Iraq, um, during the Ramadan, um, there was some voting elections going on, and as well as Ramadan at the time, and we were going to provide security. The Marines that I was providing medical support for, and that I was kicking around with wherever they went, I went. Um, they were providing security for this village so they could vote in relative safety. And so we were told we were going to this location and going to occupy a rock plant, a plant where they cut rock and package rock and all of the above with rock. Um, we were just going to occupy it for a couple of days and use it as our base, temporary, for the Marines. Um, and we arrived, and there was only apparently a couple of workers employed at the time, and so it wasn't. There was no. We took the plan over without any incident, and we stayed there for 2 days while this village did their voting, and we provided security. And in the meantime, the Marines were doing their drills and their patrols, and they're occupying their posts, and just stuff Marines do. And there was one. It must have been an outside security came through visiting, and this guy was walking through with his Belgian Malinois, and he was a explosives dog. And so the Marine that was with him, I introduced myself, he introduced himself and the dog, and I asked him about what his job was, and he told me, yeah, this is an explosive ordnance dog. And I went, oh, no way, I've heard about him. He's like, yep. I said, well, can you demonstrate something for me? And he's like, sure. And I was like, he had to think about it. He goes, here, I'll tell you what. And he takes a magazine, M16 magazine, and he says, why don't you take this magazine and locate it somewhere in that rock pile? There was a bunch of rock because it was a rock plant. There was a bunch of broken rock down the center of this drive. And he goes, yeah, just hide the magazine somewhere, anywhere. And I was like, okay. Well, this field of rock is probably 200 feet long and 30 feet wide. And I mean, there's hiding places throughout that. And so he brought the dog, and he disappeared with it around the corner of a building. And then I went ahead and played hide and seek with this just 30 round magazine clip in the hole in a rock somewhere, in a pile. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready. And he just asked me, so give me a general idea where did you, give me 100-foot strip of where you hit it. And so I told him from there, from that point to that point. And he's like, okay. So he just started the rounds with this dog, and the dog was pacing back and forth, going through it. And you know what? He found that darn magazine. I mean, it was, not a needle in a haystack per se, but it was a pretty good, pretty impressive find because the magazine's only, this big with ammunition, the gunpowder, it's got an odor. Sure enough, yeah, dog found it. It was pretty cool. It's just entertainment. What else are we going to do for 7 months out in the middle of Iraq? So that's always like a story to bring back to your guys and to tell them, oh, I went on this patrol and we went to a rock plant and I met this guy with a Belgian Malinois and he did an explosive search for me, demonstration. I'm reading your comments here. How'd you come up with that? Please don't tell me Goga told you unless you were Goga. Yeah, it was. You only hear about it. At least I had only heard about it and watched it on television. And then you meet some guy. He's like, there he is with a dog. And that's what his job was. And there was a lot of, just with my experience, that one tour to Iraq in 2004, 2005, there were, it was, it was, there was always an instance where we were looking for somebody that was hiding explosives. At least that was the scuttlebutt, the rumor, the chismith, the Maritess was that the bad guy is the bad guy over there across the river is more than likely has explosives hiding, on his um, on his property, and we would go over there and do a search. And the guy with the dog, they were used. That was one example where they would use him to, search for explosives. And they would find caches, CACHE, caches of explosives, very often with that method. I think you told me you were in the Army. Is that right, darling? You told me this before. Was it Army or Air Force? I forgot. Yeah, my story was it was the most boring camp out of my life, interrupted by moments of chaos, but the chaotic incidences didn't produce you know, any work for me, from a medical. That's the morbid part of being in medicine. Yeah, Army is, if you're not sick or injured, I'm bored. that's that's a good thing for you guys, but what do we do for 7 months? Give classes, did that. Even gave continuing education over in Iraq to the Iraqi National Guard, ING. We would give those soldiers basic first aid classes, teach them the difference between an arterial and a venous bleed, and what to do and how to bandage them and what not to do, et cetera, et cetera. How to use a tourniquet, when and when not to use a tourniquet. But other than that, we would, what do we do? Sit around, um, play cards, smoke cigarettes, even if we didn't smoke. Whittle with a knife. Yes, I did plenty of that. I built a rock climbing wall. Imagine that. Here, you know what? I think the website that I posted that on is no longer available. It's actually corrupted to the point of can't even access it. I think all the blogs and articles and photos disappeared with the website. But yeah, I built a rock climbing wall with my spare time over in Iraq. Ended up using Bondo adhesive to adhere indoor rock climbing holds onto this cement wall that was outside, and created this little gymnasium for a few of us. It was supposed to be like incorporated as part of the Marine Welfare and Recreation, MWR, give them something to do instead of sitting at a laptop and or using the phone or working out, that Marines do best. Give them something to play around on, including a rock climbing wall. And I got an approval from my commanding officer to build this and ended up finishing it. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that's what I did with my spare time, was just think of things to do. Go to the range. That was the funnest part, just to go expend ammunition because they needed to get rid of it. So we'd go play at the range or, whatever. Eat, sleep, tell stories. And then every once in a while, chaos would ensue. And, even then, compared to what I did in an ambulance in the civilian world, I worked my butt off in the civilian world to the point of exhaustion, and sleeplessness for 12 hours straight. And I compare that to what I did in Iraq. Oh my gosh. Complete boredom. Sheer boredom for 7 months. It was horrible. Yeah. Yeah, how to the vein. I think that's what you meant to say. Yeah, and give each other saline. Yeah, start IVs on each other. What else? Exactly. Here, speaking of, yeah, speaking of, in the back of an ambulance, we would, one guy, Mark, in Oregon, we would start IVs on each other just to play. And then I decided to play a little bit with the EKG monitor, which delivers electricity as well. And so we had to be real careful with that. But, the crazy paramedics that we were, it's like, let's see what 100 joules feels like. Like, what? It's like, yeah. Because we couldn't use the pads, the defib pads, the defibrillation pads. They were expensive, and we had to account for whatever we used, so they knew if we were missing defibrillation pads. It's like, so what happened to those? Well, we can't say, oh, we were playing around in the back of the ambulance and practicing on each other. So we developed like ways of getting around that. And instead of defibrillation pads, we would use those little round EKG pads, which the wires that attach to the defibrillation pads, they were large. The snap, the little snap that they snap onto, were large compared to the EKG pads. They were too small. So we would rig up something and put aluminum foil inside the hole of the cable so that it would seat firmly on a small EKG pad, and we would use those as little mini defibrillation pads. So we had the ability to go 20 joules, 40, 60, up to 100, and then 200 and 300, which would be devastating. But we would sit there and play around with the joules and shock each other. It was like, okay, that's enough. I know, as you know, in the military's worse. You know, God, they accounted for rounds during wartime. I got a story about losing a round in the shitter in the porta john. I was counting my rounds, darling, in my hat. I had nothing else to do, so I go inside of a porta john, took my cover off and put it in my lap, and I got my magazine out and I just started pushing my 9 mil rounds into my hat, and then I would take them and put them back into my magazine, and get blisters on my thumbs just for something to do, because I didn't want to do that out. So, well, I think I used the head, and then I would count rounds, to occupy more time until it was so hot inside I couldn't stand it. Well, I ended up dropping a 9 mil round into the into the toilet, and I was like, "Oh crap! Oh shit!" I mean, well, not. And and I thought, really, do they really care if a 9 millimeter round drops into the toilet? Oh yeah, they do. And I'm like, oh my gosh! So now I got to tell my superior that I dropped a 9 millimeter round into the toilet. And he's looking at me. He's like, looks like you're going to have to figure out a way to get it out of there. And I was like, really? HM2? He's second class, or HM1. And he laughs at me. He's like, I don't care, But he's like, I got to report technically these things to my superior, which happened to be a staff sergeant, a gunnery sergeant, gunny. No, it was a 9 millimeter round. And so I was like, don't worry about it. I'll go tell him. So I went down to the communications center. They call it the CCC. And I'll tell Gunny that I dropped a round into the porta john. So I go down there and I tell him, and he's like being serious, like, looks like you're going to have to figure out a way to get it out yourself, Doc. And I'm like, come on, Gunny. He's like, what? That's not my problem. So I told the guy from Albania and the guy from Yugoslavia, they both emptied the shitters and they emptied the trash, and that was their job. They were drivers, they cleaned the porta johns. We had like 11 or 12 porta johns, and they sprayed them down and emptied the blue water and took it out to the gray pit and all of the above, and they also emptied the trash. Well, I told one of the guys that did the porta johns, and he's like, okay, Doc, okay, I'll try to find it for you. I go, are you serious? He goes, yeah, that big hose that I put down into the toilet, that sucks everything out. And he says, and there's a filter. It actually goes through a filter of some sort, and apparently it can filter out stuff. And so, sure enough, within like 2 days, he comes back to me with a 9 millimeter round. And he's like, and I went, no way. He goes, yep. And I went, did you really find that in the porta john? He goes, yes, sir. And I went, oh my gosh. So I got my 9 millimeter round back. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. The porta johns. Yeah. So I was actually able to go up to my first class and say, and he's like, no way. And I went, way. But I mean, stuff like that, Oh my gosh. God forbid you lose a magazine. I dropped a few of those and didn't have my holster of the 9 millimeter squared away on my leg, and the Velcro would come undone, and my magazine would fall out on the way back to my hooch from the interpreter's room when I'd have coffee and snacks with them every evening at 8:30. Around midnight is when I would walk back to my hooch and go to sleep. And sometimes we would get mortared or rocketed, and all hell would break loose and everybody's on the ground. And I remember being on my face in the gravel in the middle of the courtyard. And apparently my magazine came unvelcroed and fell out, and I ended up running back to my quarters per se, and then doing a head count, and everybody's accounted for, and nobody's injured. And then I'm looking at myself, making sure I got everything, and I look down on my leg, and sure enough, my magazine's missing. And I was like, oh my God, really? Where did that go? So I had to retrace my steps in the dark with my flashlight, and sure enough, there's my magazine sitting in the middle of the gravel between point A and point B. I was like, God, what else? What else can I get in? Yeah. What else can I get in trouble for? I filled sandbags while over there too, because I got in trouble for leaving my 9mm on the deck, not on my person. You know what? The crap you get for that. Walking away from your weapon? No. Well, I did it. Yeah. And speaking of First Sarge, actually, no, it wasn't Gunny. It was First Sarge. He got me in trouble. Well, I got myself in trouble, but he gave me the sandbag duty in the middle of Iraq in 113-degree weather. The first 2 weeks I was there. And I was like, really? You ever fill a sandbag, Doc? And I'm like, no. He's like, let me show you. As he's smiling and chuckling on the way out to the sand pit. I'm like, are you serious? Yeah. Well, what happened was when we first got there were some things to be done and some construction and building, that just some minor stuff that they wanted to do to the BAS, the Battle Aid Station, the emergency room, if you want to call it that. And they wanted to build some shelves and some little compartment shelves for bandages and stuff, make your own rack. And so they broke out the hammers and the nails, and they had some electric tools, etc. And so I was helping out with putting together something, and the holster I had on my leg, I didn't square that away before I left the States. So whenever I would walk, that thing would shift, and it would work its way into the inside of my leg and get in the way, and I'd be kicking my weapon eventually. And so I was trying to square it away, but in the meantime, it was easier to just take it off and put it down and get it, like, keep it next to me, but off of me while I was working. And I was able to do that, with, relative accountability. But one time, whatever it was, the hammer or whatever, the nails that I needed to get was back over there. And I walked over there to go get it, and I walked back, and my weapon was gone. And I went, what? It's been there, next to me for 2 hours. And then I walk 30 feet back there and walk 30 feet back, and it's gone. And I'm standing there like an idiot, looking around at everybody, trying to see somebody that looks obvious, guilty. Like, okay, who's playing games with me? And I couldn't locate anybody. And then I started getting nervous. And then I started getting really nervous and thought, holy crap. I've got to tell somebody. And I know who I have to tell. My first class. And so his name's Arocha, HM, Rudy, actually his first name. We called him HM1 Arocha. And so I had to approach him in private. Yeah, he did. You already guessed it, and I'm getting there. Yeah, it's exactly what he did. And I didn't know he was there, but apparently he was. Anyway, let me go. Let me lead. I'm almost there. So I told HM1, and he said he just like lost it. Like, you got to be shitting me. And I went, no. And he's like, he had to stop everybody. He's like, guys, stop. We're looking for a weapon. Doc just lost his weapon, and if you're playing games, that's okay. We get it, but we need it back. And while he's making that speech, I just happened to wander my eyes over, like, to my left, and what did I say? First Sergeant, also known as Master Sergeant, or no, First Sergeant. Anyways, he's a what is that, E9 or E8? Is that E7, E6, 7, 8? I think E8. And I'm E5, And I look over at First Sarge, and he's got this smile on his face, and he's got his arms behind his back like parade rest, and he's all, problem, Doc? And I went, it was like relief, but I just got caught by the principal. E7, yeah. And so it was, I realized, okay, he's got it behind his back. At least I'm hoping, because he had that look, that smile / I got you look. And then he, out of his mouth, he goes, you ever feel sandbags before, Doc? And I went, it was like, thank God you have it. And he pulls it out from behind him. He goes, guess you won't do that again. And I just said, nope, never filled sandbags. He said, but I'm sure you're going to teach me. And he's like, follow me, Doc. So in the middle of the afternoon, actually it was morning, it wasn't afternoon because I had lunch, and they brought me lunch. They actually hand served me lunch out in the dirt. And then I had dinner as well. It took me 6 hours to fill 50 sandbags. And I had to carry those sandbags to the mortar pit after I was finished. I got pictures somewhere of me. I lined up 50 sandbags, 5 rows of 10, because the mortar pit were building their underground little reinforced cave to kick back in the relative cool of the day. And I brought them sandbags, carried them. I actually was able to get 2 sandbags, one on each shoulder, and walk them over to so I got my butt kicked for 6 hours. Yeah, in 113-degree weather. And he told me, he was cool about it. He said, you take whatever amount of time you need to take it. He says, it's hot out. Be careful. It's dangerous out here. And so I did. I became buddies with the mortar pit guys, and they brought me down into their little fort underground and let me kick back in the shade. And they had Gatorade on ice. I don't know where they got the ice. And then my guys brought me lunch, and they brought me dinner. And I finally got done 6 hours later. God, all for leaving my 9mm on the deck and walking away from it. And here I am, 42 years old, being treated. It didn't matter, right? In the military, doesn't matter how old you are. It's your rank that gets you respite from that type of stuff. All right, Angel. Oh, you came over. Sorry, I just saw you. Sorry, I'm talking away and not noticing who's coming in. Thank you, though, Angel, for stopping by. Oh, and there was one more before I go. I won't go into all as much detail, but I was speaking of that first sergeant. How ironic this happens to just flow right into the memory, the next memory I'm going to tell you about. That first sergeant that gave me 50 sandbags to fill, he got injured. He either got shrapnel from an IED or a mortar or a rocket or whatever it was. Something hit him while he was on patrol, and he got a pretty impressive full thickness laceration to the back of his scapula, his shoulder blade, and then one on his lower leg. And I ended up assisting him along with another corpsman in the back of a 7-ton truck while we were egressing out of the city of Heat, Iraq, HIT. We did a foot patrol through the city of Heat, and 3 platoons, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. I was with Charlie platoon. So anyways, I ended up assisting, taking care of First Sergeant. And what was I going to say? Oh, about him. Was that all I was going to talk about? Was the fact that it was him and that he got injured, and I ended up assisting and bandaging him up. There was something else I was going to say. What was it? I'm sorry. I'm reading your post at the same time. Getting sidetracked. Uh, Yeah, First Sarge ended up getting hurt, and I provided medical support for him, and we ended up flying him out. I don't think this is what I was going to say, but we ended up flying him out via helicopter. As a matter of fact, one of my videos is of the CH-60 flying First Sergeant out for a higher level of care. Speaking of, let me just see if I can do this. Okay, that's StreamYard. Yeah, let me play that, and that'll be my ending before I'm out of here. Studio and content. Uh-oh, upload interrupted. Oh my gosh, how did that happen? Oh, I closed that, that's why. Holy moly, what happened? I was uploading a video and apparently it got interrupted. I gotta fix that before I'm done. And before I go any further here. Monster Bass, there it is. Okay. It says 100% uploaded. Oh, 3 seconds left. Oh, it looked like it just finished. Okay. So back to studio here. I can't end that. Well, what if why do YouTube? I actually was monetized before this channel, this Doc MacKay channel. And that was initially it was curiosity. I had a YouTube channel for, gosh, since 2000, probably before 2000. I had it for 20 years or something. But I didn't know anything about it, and monetization wasn't talked about, and how to make money on it, and so on. And then word in my house via my wife I started hearing about becoming monetized and making money. And I thought, well, I've always heard about that, but I have no idea what or how to do that. And then my wife started talking about it, and I said, what are you talking about? She says, yeah, you need to go on YouTube and post your link. so other people can go to your channel and subscribe. And I thought, what are you talking about? It was just foreign language. So one thing led to the other, and I ended up speaking to a family member over in the Philippines about it. And we did a Facebook Messenger together, and he started showing me about these um, live streams and having people come into your live stream and posting their link and clicking on, and so on, and getting subscribers and watch hours and et cetera, et cetera. And so that was the beginning. And so it became something to do, as well as a goal to become monetized and see if I could produce something that would, be beneficial as far as making money. And so that was why I started getting more involved in making videos. And then making videos involves editing, and editing is something, it's just like one thing after the other. And next thing you know, you got to learn how to edit, and then you start liking it, and then you start doing it, and then you start making videos, and then you come back and you post them, or you edit them, and then you post them, and then you monitor them and see how to make them grow, and all of the above. And so that's why doing live streams is one way of building watch hours, which is a requirement for staying monetized. And is it necessary? No. Do I use it to get watch hours? Not necessarily. I just come on here because I get bored and I want to chat with somebody and talk, which I do best. Ask my wife. And so as far as, that's kind of my why I do it. Do I make money doing this? No, I'm not monetized right now. This is a new channel, relatively new channel. And so, you can't even donate towards my channel if you wanted to. Actually, you can. On that note, I've got a buy me a coffee and PayPal listed at the top of my channel under the description. But do I rely on that? Is that my job? No. Do I make any money on it? No, I don't. So it's more something to do and a way to chat. Yes and no. No, not at all. Yeah, no, not pressured by others. I don't know how you would be pressured by others. No, this is just something to do, something I discovered 3 years ago. And then I became part of, and I'm actually live streaming now instead of just attending others' live streams and participating and supporting them. Yeah, as far as pressure, no, not at all. I mean, there's no pressure doing live stream. There's no need to be pressured. And as far as being financially stable, no. No, I'm not. And if it wasn't for my spouse, who knows what I'd be doing. Well, I'd be working, but no, unfortunately, I didn't prepare properly for my retirement. And yeah, I rely on my spouse almost 100%. So yeah. Oh, like you're kind of and want you to put it out there. In essence, they like your content. Oh. No, I wish I was at that point where they like my content so much that it was driving. See, I don't even know what that is like to be, um, financially, to see my finances actually driving my want to do it. Um, yeah, you wouldn't be pressured by it. Like these successful, channels that actually I subscribe to that I watch on a regular basis, like Outdoor Boys, the father and his kids that go out and just produce incredibly entertaining content. Well, he's not pressured per se to do it. He could stop anytime he wanted to, you know, but he's an attorney in the civilian world. So does he need to do, his channel? No. I would imagine he enjoys the heck out of what he does. And I guess there's expectations, the fact that he has, millions of subscribers. But no, I wouldn't think so. If I was at that point, man, I'd be doing whatever I could to produce content and to get people working for me to do the editing for me and just start becoming more of a manager of a business. And it would be, I think that'd be a cool job. Like my paramedic job, I love the heck out of being a paramedic. Really, it was one of the best jobs in the world. I loved going to work. I couldn't wait to walk into somebody else's house and you know, see what puzzle I could try to figure out, you know, every shift. But financially, it's a poor job. You would think so, but no. Yeah, you know, my spouse made nearly triple what I made as a paramedic. I shouldn't say tripled. It was double and then some. You took the words right out of my mouth. You know what my whole desire, I think I got it in my description, in my channel description, is wouldn't it be cool to make a paycheck that could put gas in my vehicle every month? Or I mean, when I needed it. Enough money to pay for gas money for my vehicle. Just a little supplemental check, that I could cash and rely on to put gas in my vehicle. Or to make a car payment. How about that? To make a car payment. But I never got to that point. I have I have a idea with this channel that I just haven't figured out how to run with, and I know it would be just everybody. I mean, you can see it on television, you can see it on YouTube, it's it's not flooded either. The market isn't flooded because not everybody does this type of work. And those that actually have done it, i.e. myself, I got a story to tell and I would love to make it episodes out of it. And or not only myself telling stories, but other professionals, have them come up and I can interview them, side by side via, these, layouts that I have here um, on StreamYard, and, get somebody up here as my co-host, another professional, whether it's I even thought about interviewing my primary care physician, a doctor, a fellow doc, not a fellow doc, but a doctor, a physician, and have him come up here and tell stories. Why not? A fellow paramedic. who's retired or a current paramedic, and get regular people up here to tell stories and just talk about their experiences. I think it would blow the doors off of a channel. You know, I'd subscribe to a channel. I actually do. There's a few YouTubers out there who I subscribe to their channel because they're incredibly successful and it's awesome to listen to their episodes. But I haven't been able to figure out how to get a regular, how to make contact. I've tried through Facebook and other social media to put it out there and get people. I had a couple responses initially, which was actually starting to kind of motivate me. People from out of state who emailed me back and said, "Hey, I'd be interested in, being a co-host," and then all of a sudden they disappear. And I never heard back from them. I think it would be, I love to share my stories, have somebody interview me, as my own co-host, find somebody who's willing to be my host or co-host that'll interview me. And I could talk about crazy stories like I have in my head that are just craziness. The annals of human stupidity and all of the above. It's just wild. Wild stuff I'd love to share. Stuff that I've walked into, people's homes that I've walked into that would blow people's minds to think that type of stuff goes on in their neighbor's house. Yes. Just crazy. It blew my mind walking in on stuff like that. Incredible. I agree, not only because that I was a paramedic, I love to talk to other paramedics and just hear their stories. You're like, no way, really? We used to do that on the job all the time, over lunch, after a call, or we would run into fellows and say, hey, where are you working? Haven't seen you in a while. Oh, I'm up in so-and-so. And it's like, and then you start sharing war stories and it's just like craziness, nonstop. Somebody's got a story to tell that is just bizarre. Stuff that you say, nuh-uh. You're like, oh yeah, it really did happen. I really did see that. And it's like human. It's like watching a reality show. Remember, I don't know how old you are. Emergency 911. Was one of the first reality shows where somebody was hosting and a camera would go out with, a responding crew, or they would do a, what's it called? A dramatization of that. That was typically what you saw most back in the day, was dramatizations. But now with the advent of phones and cams and social media, it's real stuff right as it's happening. See, you're going to get me talking. I can talk like this forever about my career. I ran on a call that was, what's the word? to be an episode on the show Emergency 911 with William Shatner. Remember Captain Kirk on Star Trek? William Shatner? He hosted a show called Emergency 911. Well, I ran a call. I ran a call on an ambulance, and that was the public relations department in my company actually contacted them, and they were going to run with it, and they never got back to them, or it never happened. But I ran a call that was just like something right out of a television episode. It was with a boa constrictor. We ended up extricating a boa constrictor off a guy in his home. It was crazy. I got a plaque up in my bedroom right to this very day. It's sitting up on my dresser right now. I should run up there and get it. It was awarded to us at a Christmas party. My partner and I were given this plaque, and a video was shown to recognize us for this. It was called Paramedic Craziest Call of the Year in 1997 up in Oregon. Yeah, we walked in on a guy, and he had this huge boa constrictor wrapped around his arm, and his hands were about as black blue they could get. And it turned out to be his boa constrictor that got loose and ended up feeding on his hand. It's like, oh my God. It was bizarre. Huge. No exaggeration. It was as large as my leg, as large as my thigh. This snake was that thick. Probably 8 to 10 feet of it. Part of it wrapped around his arm, big old ball of snake, and then the rest of it down on the floor out in the kitchen behind the refrigerator. And the refrigerator was pushed away from the wall from the snake. The refrigerator was pushed away. To give you an idea how fat and powerful that thing was. He was fine, but we ended up having to extricate and unwrap this snake from around his arm with like 5 of us, 2 paramedics and 3 firefighters. Craziness. Who would know that would go on inside your neighbor's house? Wild stuff. All right, Miss Darling. Maybe one day I'll be able to you'll see episodes. Oh, and speaking of, this, just a little plug for StreamYard. StreamYard has 3 options. When you purchase a plan, they got free. They got a free plan. It's limited, but it's free nonetheless. You got 3 options. You can go live like I'm telling the world right now, and everybody can watch me. Or you don't have to go live. You invite somebody to a viewing where they actually come on stage like I'm doing right now, and they would appear, next to you, in a split screen. And you can interview them, and you can record. So you just hit record. You tell them, this is, I'm going to make an episode. Would you like to be, my co-host? You're like, yeah, sure. Just like you see these television programs where they do an interview, on a split screen. Well, they're not doing that live. They're recording it. And then they go back and they edit it. And they take out all the downtime and the mistakes in your delivery and, the magic of editing. And then once it's done and ready to produce, you go to YouTube and you hit upload, and then you upload the video to your YouTube channel, and then you put it out there, and it becomes an episode. Your interview with somebody. That's the second option. And the third option is a, um, what do they call it without a video? A podcast, where you can do an audio podcast with somebody like a radio station does, where you don't see the people, but you can hear their voice. I think that's what it's called a podcast. Yeah. Anyways, so I would use the second option, the record option, where I actually send somebody a link and you talk to them on the phone and schedule a a time, and then they click on your link and they come to your live stream. It's not a live stream. It's not live. They come to your stream and you do an interview with them, and you click record while you're interviewing them, and you can actually give them a copy as well as keep a copy for yourself. And then you go back and you edit it. They have editing software with StreamYard, and you edit it, and then you get it good to go, and you upload it to your YouTube channel, and voila. So that's what I'm wanting to do, is find somebody, interview them, edit it, and then put it up on YouTube and do one episode a week. And people don't realize how hard that can be to produce one episode a week, and the editing that goes along with it. It's tough, especially when you're not a pro editor, and I struggle through it, although I'm gotten a lot better, but still don't know, the not advanced, that's for sure. Whoops. All right, guys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, darling, thank you for being, hanging out and asking me questions. Gives me an opportunity to get out of breath. Okay, my upload is complete. So speaking of, I just, I took an old video from my previous channel, an old fishing video, and I re-edited it. I put it back up on my Power Director, and I clipped out some parts and did a few tweaks here and there. And now I've got a 6-minute old fishing video that I'm going to pop up on the YouTube channel, and keeps me busy, gives me something to do. I'm sorry, what did you say? From what I learned, the most views you would have is on an interactive live stream. So much easier. Yeah, it depends. It depends. Live streaming isn't so much for views, darling. It's for watch hours. The amount of time people spend watching you. Yeah, just recently I did. And because of the popularity of vertical format, people tend to click through vertical format a lot more than the 16:9 format, which is what I'm in right now. And so that's why you will more than likely get more views. But again, back to watch hours, if you didn't already know this. For instance, I've been on 2 hours and 16 minutes. Okay? And you've been hanging out with me pretty much from the beginning. So I get 2 hours and 16 minutes of your view time watching me. As well, Brenna Kim, she's working right now, but she's left her name in my chat room. So I'm getting 2 more hours and 16 minutes from her on top of your 2 hours. And then Affectionate Butterfly has been in my room since the beginning. So I get her 2 hours and 16 minutes of view time. So that's a total of 6 hours and 45 minutes. Almost 7 hours of watch time.
just from 3 people. You see how that kind of like, it's called exponential, watch hours. So if you can get a live stream where people are in your live stream for the entire time that you're doing your live stream, then your watch hours go like berserk. You see, that's why people use live streaming for their watch hours, because they can get watch hours. But as far as viewers, I've only got 3 viewers from you, Kim, or you, Lynn, and Butterfly. Whereas if I've got 1 million subscribers, and usually 1/10, I'm just going to use that number because that seems to be the going trend. About 1/10 of your subscribers actually watch your content on a regular basis. So that's 100,000. You see, I'm just using general numbers to make it easy. You've got 100,000 people watching your channel. And they're, depending on how much of that video did they watch. And then you can find that out through your studio, as far as how much watch time are you actually getting? What's the average watch time? Are people watching your videos? Like my 6-minute video that I just mentioned, I'll probably only get 2 minutes average people watching that video for 2 minutes before they click away from it. So anyways, there's a bunch of factors, and you end up learning about that, and or you get somebody that manages your channel for you that's all keen on that stuff, and that's what they do for a living, and you end up paying them to do that, but you need money to do that. So anyways, I'm going to let everybody go and do this another time. Random. Sorry, I don't have a schedule, so you'll have to just, if you haven't already, subscribe, and then you'll get the notification, the little red bell icon notification, and then you'll know when I go live or put up another video, and so on and so forth. So don't forget, like they say, hit that thumbs up. That's the best way you can support the channel, and leave a comment too. Yeah, the vertical live stream. Yep. Thank you very much, Miss Darling. Bustamante. Yeah, go to bed. What are you? 2:53 in the morning? Is it 2:53 in Chicago? Or is it 1:53? Well, I'm wide awake only because my hours are so mixed up that I can't seem to get back on a regular channel. See, I'm already stuck on a regular sleep schedule. Thank you. I ended up going fishing. I never went to sleep last night, and I went fishing at 6:30 this morning, 5:30 this morning. Sorry. Or no. 6:30. And I stayed up till noon. What's that? Please don't do that or say that right after I have been here this morning. It's so annoying. What did I say? You mean what time it is in Chicago? Well, whatever I said, I didn't mean anything contrary. I'm just expressing we must be tired. We. Thank you guys again, Miss Darling and girl in the mirror, Salahat, everybody else. Lynn, as I said it. Oh, you said go to sleep. Just meaning you must be tired because I know it's 4 in the morning here. So, night owl, affectionate beauty. Night owl friend. It's an expression, a night owl. Somebody that stays up all night. All right, guys. Now you got me yawning. Ah. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. See ya.